Yo, my Patron Papes, what's up? This video's just kicking off, so I'm gonna buy a little. Well, I'll just do the rundown actually, because I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this in replay. Don't forget, at our Tobacco store, anybody watching for free out there or patrons, Sleep Phone Effortless Sleep With Me edition is up on our Tobacco store. And this is a spray, the company we're working with to do our sleep spray. This is another spray they make, Serenity Now. Frankie and Murr. I don't have the branded version of our spray yet, but I don't think you're supposed to spray yourself in the face. Ooh, smells good. So much calmer now. Whew, I just feel like in total acceptance of everything. And like I could roll with it one day at a time. Serenity Now. So this is just another spray they make, different than the sleep spray, but one they gave me to test out. Cool. If anybody's in the chat, you can hit me with questions. I'm going to run through this week's thing. If anybody's on the Patreon, watching the comments on the Patreon, if people come in with questions, if you could relay them to me. I've got my phone here, but it's always best if I focus on one thing at a time. Cool. My furs, I need a fur cut. My fur's in effect. I shaved this week. Trying to get my look going. It's another podcast I listen to that I support, ATP. Okay, let's run through this week's Patreon previews. My Rebels with a Cause. I don't know since you're if you're a $5 patron, you haven't heard the new reads for the Patreon. But that's my new thing to test out. Rebels with a Cause, because really, if you become a patron, it is such an act of rebellion. In a rare act to say, let me pay for a free podcast. I mean, I know I talk about this a lot, but that's the new one I came up with. It's like, it really is rebellious and a positive, empowered rebellion in this time to say, wait a second, this isn't really free, just free to kind of borrow. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm trying. We'll see if it brings in. We'll see how it plays in public. But let's see what's coming up. Tonight is episode 700. Holy mackerel. Let me run through the previews. That's coming out ad-free for $5 and up patrons on Monday for $1 and up patrons. And the regular episodes don't go in the podcast feed. So if you're a dollar patron, just your bonuses are coming in the podcast feed. But Monday is story-only episode from 762. Alice isn't at brunch episode. That should be fun. Tuesday is at $5 and up patrons are getting story-only episode 673, which is Themepark review. Wednesday is episode 701 for $5 and up patrons, ad-free. And that is episode 8 of Stan. I can't remember what it's called. Let me look. Processing Boredom. That's a good episode. I listened to it yesterday. Episode Thursday, $10 and up patrons get story-only episode from episode 393. Tell Don't Show, get Besos episode 18, season 2, I think, right? Let's see. Friday. I'm sorry, I'm missing the chat, but I'm going to pop back in there. I'm just reading from Evernote here. Friday is $10 and up patrons get a story-only episode from episode 392, Erie Canal Museum. And then on Saturday, we'll have another special edition, because this week was kind of, I found this special edition folder, and I was like, I couldn't figure out if the one I released on Saturday had come out before or not. It had come out a while ago. Thank you, Alec, for telling me that. So we'll have one from Cloud Tower come out this week on Saturday for $5 and up patrons. If you're public, this is a free stream. So if you're on the public side, or if you're patron and you supported Green Chef, the sponsor that was testing the show out, I got my first box on Friday. So share with me on social media, and I'm gonna start doing an occasional, like a monthly live stream for people that support this podcast by supporting the sponsors, Green Chef. So just share with me, like with Pit, ideally with me and Green, say, hey, Green Chef bought this box, became a subscriber from Sleep With Me. But that's your patron. So, but be doing that. I think that's it on the Patreon preview. I thought I had a couple other notes here. Let's see. Archives we went through last week. Oh, the Patreon FAQ. It's sleepwithmepodcast.com/Patreon FAQ. PatreonFAQ. And that has how to get a hold of Patreon support, which is probably the most important thing. If you're stuck, and then answers to a lot of questions. Thanks, Stacy. Yeah, 700 really is like, I remember when we turned 500, and I was like, I don't know why 700 feels a lot bigger than 600, but it kind of feels like the last milestone between now. Okay. I don't know. I don't know why it feels like it's just a last milestone between now and 1,000. But yeah, I can't believe I've made 700. I mean, well over 700 podcast episodes, but 700 episodes of Sleep With Me, and then all the other bonuses and other stuff. So pretty wild. We had a weird kind of confluence this week. Let me talk about 700, and then we'll talk about the on location episode. So yeah, like if you were supporting the show and you're a patron, I talk about this a lot, even at the beginning of the show. I'd have to look back at when the podcast would have stopped, but it wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have made it to the 700 mark or even the 500 mark without you or people that started listening earlier and supported the show earlier. The people that support the show on a regular basis, like you are the people willing to go to the community garden and water the plants and feed the plants and do all those things. I'm seeing posts come up on sorry, let's try and make so if people are commenting on Facebook or on the Patreon, I can't check those. So if someone in the chat can relay them to me, or just let those people know, click through to YouTube to chat. So I guess, yeah, that's all I guess is like, thank you for empowering me to reach 700 and empowering me to have the editors and to now my phone's ringing. Now my computer's ringing. Whew, boy. It also took me about 25 minutes to get this live stream going. I'm still not even sure what it was that took so long, if it was YouTube blocking me using links, or it was my internet provider not wanting me to live stream. So, okay. So thank you for empowering me to reach episode 700. I couldn't do it without you. And actually this week was there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about publicly, but because of the Patreon support this week, I was able to say no to a few different things that if we didn't have the Patreon support, I might have had to say yes to, like stuff that I just, like when I think about how do I talk about this without talking about it? Just I was able to say no to some things, and that I didn't feel like were good fits for our show, and really big like opportunities that for another thing, someone else or some other podcast might be great, but just for Sleep With Me and the relationship I have with the audience, I was able to say no, and actually like to be supported in saying no, because we have listener support. Where if we didn't have the listener support, I probably would have had to say yes, or it would have been like, listen, Gut, I know you're saying this isn't, and there's a voicemail. This is my sister though. Hi, Sheila. So like the listener support doesn't just enable me to keep the show going, and it enables me to say some no to some things. I don't know if I'm making sense, but because I can't talk about them, but like just really like that text coming in. This one's from my brother. So it's Sunday, family time. So thank you for supporting the show, I guess is my main thing. So that was one thing that was just like a theme this week was like, hey, this came up. What do you think about this? And I was like, ooh, that's a really big opportunity, but there's this part of it. And I was like, you know what? Like, don't think it's a fit. So anyway, there's just a lot that I don't know. Thank you for supporting the show. Also, so this week on Friday, I think it was Friday night, that $10 and $20 patrons got an on-location episode. We're still working our way towards the goal to see if we can get it for $5 patrons. Next month will be a different goal for a different exclusive, probably a Fearless Flyer episode. Still got texts coming in. Podcast of life. So what was my question? So this on-location episode went out, and it was recorded in 2017, and Robin Leach, rest in peace, was heavily featured in the episode, and it came out, and it was just kind of eerie in some sense. The episode, I had listened to it over the past couple of weeks, and then it came out, and he passed away at the same time. So, but it was really a positive thing. I don't know if anybody, like, not everybody knows who Robin Leach is, but he was a host of a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and it was popular, I think, in the 80s, maybe the early 90s, and it was kind of like Cribs before Cribs, just kind of featured like, hey, like, you have a platinum bathtub and you shower in diamonds. Tell me more. So I think that's it about that. Cool. Well, we have 2 people in the chat. Hit me up with any questions. Let me just pop over. Let's see. Let me just pop over and see if I can see anything of people that were posting stuff. Oh, it's Keith. So Keith's probably watching. So hi, Keith. So yeah, okay. And then, Jolene. Yep. Just posted. Thank you. Okay, cool. So if anybody has any questions here or on Facebook, I can click over to Facebook, Keith, if you have any questions. One of our great moderators. On the public side, I guess I'll put it out early. I'm going to put out that new credit song. Maybe I could play it again for everybody on my phone. But it's the credits. And then on the public side, anybody watching from the public side, we have TNG Allegiance comes out tonight. And then we have our Tingle crossover come out Wednesday. And we're still working. If anybody that's a Chuck Tingle fan, we are working on one last thing for the crossover that I think is going to happen. That'll just add a little bit of Sleep With Me fun to it. But Stacy, Winday, is it Winday? Let me know if you have any questions here in the chat. I don't see anybody else in the chat. Oh, this says top chat. I want all chat, live chat. New, hold inappropriate messages. Better believe it. Okay, let me see if I can find this song from the Mystery Bard. Okay, let's see. Credits, version 1. I don't know if you've heard this song, but...
Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer. I am the mystery bar. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMan.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group.
Keith's name.
These are your moderators. Get support your scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance to be part of Night Vale Presents. So now on with the show.
It was by Mr. Bard. So that'd be only in the public release in episode 700 that's coming out. What that made me think? Oh, Windy. Okay. Yeah, that's coming out on episode 700. It'll be a part of the 700 celebration, but not on the Patreon not on the ad-free 700. And playing. Oh, let's see the artwork for this week since I have Dropbox open. Let's see what we got here. Boo-doo-doo-doo. Ba-ba-ba-boo. Do-do-do-do. Ba-ba-ba-boo. We're so proud to do that. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'll just be here looking stuff up here. It's Jonathan Mann. I'm just looking for the Sleep With Me art. Sleep With Me team folder. Thank you, Stacy. So here's the art for 700. Just got completed. Pretty cute. And it's like a walkthrough of episodes 500 through 599. And then in a couple days we'll do back. And thanks, Ollie. I do get a David Duchovny. That's the Patron Tingler artwork. Still have a final version coming out. TNG Allegiance artwork. Yeah, I do get a couple David Duchovny things every once in a while. Here's a little LaCroix berry flavor. Got it a week or two ago when it was on sale at Safeway. It's pretty good. No, it's no key lime. I won't be buying stock in it. LaCroix. St. Croix, LaCroix. How about Niçois? Cool. Well, if anybody has any questions, now's the time. Otherwise, I'm gonna hit the road. And let me tell you guys one more thing. A cool story. I was just checking the comments over there. So if you use what is that thing called on Patreon? Lens. You might have heard this story already. But so there's another sleep podcast that gets mentioned with us a lot, Sleep Whispers. And it's a sleep podcast, a kind of ASMR whispering style podcast. And we usually get mentioned a lot together. Like the most recent Ringer article mentioned both of us. And so the gentleman that makes it after the article reached out to me and said, hey, we get mentioned every once in a while. And I'd heard him in a couple interviews before. But he said, hey, my name's Harris, or my pseudonym's Harris, and I make the Sleep Whispers podcast. And, maybe we could just catch up, or maybe we could do some sort of crossover. And he was really, really, really nice. And he said, geez, these are some things that just struck me when you said, I've been reading, I've learned about you, and we share we're overthinkers. We both want to put our audiences to sleep. We're both around the same age, kind of similar backgrounds and stuff. And so this is probably over the past like 6 or 8 weeks, we've been emailing one another. And this is the beautiful thing about podcasting. And again, like being listener supported mostly. So I said, yeah, cool. I said, geez, I can't believe you reached out to me. It's really brave. And then he told me, like, as we were corresponding, you know, he had this pseudonym that he was using on his show, and he hadn't like broken the barrier between who he really was and his pseudonym. And he did that over the past couple weeks. So we were talking about how that was going. And I was like, oh, this was what it was like for me. And then we were like, oh, well, if we did a crossover or something, how would we do it? And I was like, well, it'll be tough because I don't have guests on Sleep With Me. And he was like, well, maybe I could do a bonus episode of his show. In his shows, he whispers like, well, you'll see coming like down the road. Or you can check it out, Sleep Whispers podcast. And so then we were like, oh, well, I was like, I could do something and put it out on Patreon. And well, I don't have guests, Sally, that like that aren't my neighbors. They have to live in my life. Only guests come on the show that are people that I have that live within a 1 block radius of me. But so so I said, oh yeah, like we'll figure it out. And so then he was like, oh, what if we do a play, like a public domain play? And he sent me this public domain play. And then I was like, well, like, let me kind of rewrite it. Like, cause I'm like, no, I was like particular. And I was like, oh, plus I wanted it to be funny. So I was like rewriting the play, and plus I wanted it to be like fun and like be like, oh, well, why do you tell meandering tales, and why do you whisper? And so we were like corresponding, and he was rewriting some of my writing. And then Thursday night, I think it was, or Wednesday night, we recorded, and we'd never spoken before. And like I said, he reached out to me, very courageous. And so we hopped on Skype and we chit-chatted, and it was kind of like we were like old friends in some sense, because we share, even though our shows are very different, his is his own distinct sleep podcast. I mean, there are podcasts that are a lot like Sleep With Me out there, but his is very distinct in his own. And so I was like, oh, this is great. And so we talked about some of the things, you know, that we probably share, that we deal with on a regular basis. And just like, and then we started recording, and because I was like, oh, let's do some meta stuff. Like, well, I don't want to, actually, I don't want to talk anymore about the content because it'll be a surprise. But like, so at some point, we haven't worked out the scheduling, and I haven't finished even recording on my end. But I recorded an episode based on what we did, and then he's going to release an episode, and I'm also going to have the recordings that he made. So it'll be interesting. And I mean, it'll be cool to come out, whether he puts it out to his patrons or he puts it on his main show. And then I'll do a regular Sleep With Me edition, as Scooter will do a regular show. But there won't be any whispering in it, because just like singing, I think for Sleep With Me, if I was to start whispering, it would just wake everybody up. So it'll be cool. So fun. And it's the whole idea of like the rising tide raises all boats. And that podcasting is just this great space. I mean, without podcasting, in my opinion, there wouldn't be any Sleep With Me podcast. But like a lot of the podcasts that I love probably wouldn't exist, just because of radio. I mean, because of something about commercial radio didn't work out so hot, but like, it's just like, because it can be distributed worldwide. I don't know. It's really cool. So I think that's it. Just a nice little story there. And bravo to Harris. Check his show out. He's really a super generous and kind person, and so courageous. I was like, man, like, it's so cool you reached out to me. Like, I would just be like worried, like, so, all right, Stacy, I'll see you. Yeah, our school started last week for us. Last night was the first night I slept in, last night I finally slept, because like I had personal stuff going on. And then last week was like back to school week, and I tried to get ready for the back to school schedule, but man, like I could not sleep last week. I mean, I was trying to go to bed early, so I could get up, and I was waking up no problem. But last night, boom! Last night was the first time I slept, but I was back on my preferred schedule. Is like, in a perfect world, I would sleep from midnight to 8:10, but can't do that in the school world. Cool. Anybody else have any other questions? I think Keith might have asked something over here, so I'm gonna pop over here. Oh, Keith, they won't let Keith chat on YouTube. That's too bad, Keith. You can ask Keith. You can ask a question on Facebook if you want. Anybody else? Wendy, Ollie, Keith. Any questions? Oh, you know what? I think I talk about this in a lot of live streams. So on every other Saturday, $5 and up patrons get a special edition show, right? And it comes out on Saturdays because it's a special edition show. And they're recent episodes, so you can always listen to the old episode, Hey Crazy Pants, at any time. But the special edition episodes come out on Saturdays, and they're a little bit different. And if you try it and it doesn't work for you, just skip it. It's just a fun way to kind of add some sound design and some other things to Sleep With Me. So feel free to skip this special edition episodes if they don't work for you. Because they don't work for, just like Sleep With Me doesn't work for everybody. But a lot of people just listen to the special edition episodes for fun. Ollie asks, who's my favorite Game of Thrones character? If not Davos, why not? It's weird. I was just thinking about Game of Thrones last night because I was thinking about, now I can't even remember the name of the character. Carl. He was in the Night's Watch in the first couple seasons, and they went north of the Wall in that town, and he took over and staged a coup. He's not one of my favorite characters, but one of the most. He's one of the most. Just one of the most interesting short-term villainous characters. I don't know who's my favorite Game of Thrones character. I mean, I do like Davos, though. That last season, there were a couple things he was just acting a little creepy. It got on my nerves. But he's still great. I don't know who else other than Davos. I mean, Jon Snow. I like. I mean, Three-Eyed Raven, Bran. Who else do I like right now? Yakin or whatever. I mean, more for the mystery. Arya, Sansa, Bronn. I guess Bronn and Davos are probably the Hound. Brienne, I like. Missandei. Lady Mormont. She's super cool. Everybody on Bear Island. Pretty much anybody on Bear Island. Every resident. Who else? I think it comes down to who don't I like. And I mean, even, I guess like it's hard. I mean, Jaime and Cersei are so complicated, right? It's like, I think it's been interesting seeing that play out and the way it ended in that map room. It's like, be interesting to see. I mean, I think one of the great things they've been able to do is have constant misdirection and set us up to believe, oh, in normal narratives, this is how this is going to play out, so that our attention goes that way, and then we're surprised. So I'm like wondering what's going to happen with Cersei, and I haven't read the books. Cersei is the actual writer of the books. Cersei says, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to find out what happens. I mean, I really feel like Jaime is doomed, but it's his choices and it's his mistake, and he's just in this sort of magnetic spiral, just like Cersei's in some magnetic spiral for, I don't know. I mean, one of the things I've always loved is how much it mirrors a real family dynamic in, like everyone's adults acting like children, but in these complicated ways. So I know a little bit about it. Boltenberg. Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to like why I can't ever have guests on the show. It is like, is that the Posties specials are divisive, but it's a Saturday. If it was a regular episode on the free feed, it's just always been something. I mean, to be honest, it's like always been something I want to do. I consider Chris an artist in the work he's doing, art in sound design and experimentation. And like I've always been like, oh, what if I did have a bigger budget and a bigger time budget and financial budget, what would deluxe versions of Sleep With Me look like? I don't see that as ever being sustainable. But what would it look like with Sleep With Me with sound design and immersive sound and those kind of things? It's like, oh, maybe that's best suited for some other project. But for giving Chris opportunity to work and get paid for that work to produce something, and me having the ability to pay him and just do something fun. I don't know. It's like, oh, here's a fun, I don't know. It's something for super fans. Whenever I look at stuff that I'm going to make or add, I think about my fandom of things and being like, oh, like they came out with, I don't ever watched the super deluxe Lord of the Rings episodes that are like 10 hours, but one day I will. And it's like, oh man. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people that like them, let it out too. Let me know, but I appreciate you letting me know. So just something about it. Let me pop over to Facebook and then I got to get out of here. Fortunately, I got to go for a long run. Okay, let's see. Sarah's on Facebook here. Do I have any more episodes like the Lemonade Experience coming out? I don't know. I mean, so any episodes like the Lemonade that are immersive in the time? Let's see. I'm trying to think of all the episodes I have recorded right now. I mean, I have the Sleep Whispers crossover. I have a real-time recipe episode. I have a My Life with a Perm episode. 2 of the 500 recap episodes. I mean, probably, I don't know, something like that at some point will come out. I mean, the on-location episodes are probably the most closest analog, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of like the Tuesday episodes. I can't super plan them, but I'll keep my mind open and say, is there something else like the Lemonade Experience that's that immersive? Ollie, Firefly recaps, possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's like two seasons they did, or one season. I can't remember anymore. Yeah, you never know. Right now I'm working on Doctor Who episodes for when season 3 of The Good Place is on break. So that's for those are for what do you call it? Like November. Mostly I'm working on stuff for November. I'm just finishing writing episode 12 of Nuns in Space for Stan. Then I'll do a Nuns in Space recap. Then I'll start working on our holiday series, like a short-term holiday serial series. 2 seasons, 13 episodes. That's good to know. Working on the Doctor Who. What's the other? Oh, just Tuesday episodes. Yeah, so like this week's recording, like today, I'll record an opening for the crossover I did for Sleep Whispers podcast, because I recorded that on Friday or Saturday. What's today? Sunday. Then tomorrow I'll record an opening for Stan Chronicles episode 12.